With the first pick.
Alrighty, welcome to another episode of On the Clock. On the Clock's presented by our friends at Titan Bat Company. If you're looking for the highest quality handcrafted wood bats in the game, Titan Bats has you covered with premium maple, ash, and birch game bats in 10 different models and colors to fit your swing and style. As you're gearing up for the spring season, Titan Bats is the perfect option for your next wood bat. In addition to the game bats ranging from youth baseball and softball to men's baseball, Titan Bats also offers awards bats that make the perfect gift to celebrate a teammate, coach, or baseball fan in your life. Check them out at titanbats.com and take your game to the next level this season. All righty, if you are tuning in, it's Thursday, February 13th. We are one day away from college baseball season. I'm Jared. That's Tyler. We got Monty Taylor joining us today. You guys ready for the season? Ready to go?
I'm ready to hop on that plane and get to Dallas right now.
I haven't finished all the content as of this recording, so no, I am not ready for the season, but I'm very excited for it.
You didn't have to throw yourself under the bus. Like, we record this 4
Yes, I
days in
did.
advance, and then you just like, let me run myself over. Nice. Love it, Monty. Yeah, so Tyler and I are going to be out at Shriners in Dallas. Monty, you're going to be when's Jack's? What weekend is that?
The second weekend, so 21st to 23rd.
Nice.
21st, 23rd. But I'll be in Durham and Chapel Hill this weekend.
Who's in that? UNC?
Cincinnati is at Duke, and Texas Tech is at UNC.
Oh, those are good matchups.
Fordham is also at NC State, but I that doesn't get the blood going like the other two matchups.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, Shriners. We got what? Clemson. We got Texas. We got Oklahoma State, Louisville. Who else am I missing here? Arizona. Well, I'm missing somebody. Ole Miss.
Did you already say Ole Miss? Yeah.
No, I did not.
Okay, because I want to say it's.
If you're gonna forget one, it should be Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Sorry,
wow.
Coach Bianco.
Sorry, Luke Hill.
Yep.
But yeah, I want to say it's Oklahoma State, Clemson, 11 a.m. Friday.
Mm-hmm.
The 3 p.m. game, I think, is Ole Miss in Arizona, and the game plan right now is, Jared would stay for that game. I'll go over to DBU because they're only 10 minutes up the road, so kind of double dipping a little bit, getting DBU. Elwinger, Andy Petit's son. He's the Saturday guy for DBU supposedly, so he's gonna be there. The Tallow, Grant J, all those guys. So I'm excited to see them, and then I think it's Louisville, Texas gets a 7 p.m. nightcap.
That's gonna be a fun game.
Patrick Forbes, or is that Saturday?
No, I wouldn't be shocked if Patrick Forbes is the Friday guy.
Yeah, I think he's Friday guy, and Brendan Cutts will probably be Saturday.
I think so, yeah. Because I want to say either both of them, or if not Forbes, because I saw Inside Louisville. I can't remember his name for the life of me. He was tweeting about the scrimmage in Ford's pitch on Friday.
Forbes was, must see over the summer at Team USA and Cape.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for him to get that opportunity to be a starter.
Yeah. So we're going to have tons of content coming your way. We got 21st ranked Dallas Baptist. We'll see them. 7th ranked Clemson. 14th ranked Texas. 18th ranked Arizona. So then Oklahoma State 23rd. So we'll have a bunch of the teams going. But I think we should start with the number 1 overall team if we're going to start covering the college season. The Texas A&M Aggies coming in at our number 1. I know, Tyler, they weren't one on your list, and Monty, I don't think they were one on your personal list either. But Tyler, take a listen to Texas A&M a little bit more. I know you're deep in the draft, right? They got tons of MLB draft talent, but talk about that overall roster and just kind of what the Aggies are bringing to the table.
It is loaded. That's probably the easiest way to put it. Michael Early did a fantastic job keeping, the likes of Grahovic and Laviolette at Texas A&M because they were both in the portal at one point, as well as half the team because of Schloss leaving for Texas. So, what they did to retain all that talent is pretty impressive. Just looking at it from an outsider perspective, is that they're just going to be loaded from the top down. You look at what they have this year. Obviously, Laviolette's our number 1 college guy. And we've talked about before, there's a chance where he's not that guy at the end of the year, and that's fine. You're looking at a guy that's kind of like an outlier for what he is. He's 6'6", 240. He can play center field. And you think of a guy that size, you're looking at a guy that could be pretty clunky, not very athletic. and he's the opposite of that. Plus, he has 7 juice from the left side with some feel to hit. I kind of want to see him improve the hit to a little bit, especially in zone contact, but he doesn't chase, does a good job staying in the zone. So, again, wouldn't be shocked if Laviolette's not the guy at the end of the season. Maybe even the Gold Spikes winner. Would not be shocked at all about that. But then you see what else is back there. You have Grahovic and Caden Sorrell, so 2 26ers that are really going to pop this year. Don't have Shane Sadeo, but you get Ryan Prager back. Justin Lampkin's there. You're going to see guys like Miles coming in from Long Beach State. That's probably going to be the last guy in the rotation. So those are 3 really, really good arms to have. 3 really good lefties, too. Maybe if they want to put in a righty, look at like Weston Moss, who did pretty good last year as a freshman in the SEC. And kind of just going down the bullpen, too. Like Josh Stewart's back, and Josh Stewart, as much as he was kind of like a setup guy to Aschenbeck last year, I think Stewart's the guy that's going to be in line for the closing role. Slider first guy with a decent fastball. I wouldn't be shocked if he's like a senior sign this year. So just looking at what they have, they've got a ton of depth on both sides of the ball. And I think they've got probably the best outfield in college baseball with, Wyatt Hensler. Or I don't know if Hensler's actually in the outfield. He might be second base this year. Someone correct me on that.
I think that's where he's projected by a bunch of outlets. Second base.
Okay, I take that back then. But like Laviolette, Caden Sorrell, maybe even throw like Hayden Schott in the outfield at some point too.
Gavin Cash
too. Like that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and I talked about this on the last pod too. Just kind of how they're going to have that chip on their shoulder, right? Just coming up short of the College World Series championship. Then their head coach leaves for Texas. Like, if you need motivation for a team internally, like those 2 things right there are huge. Monty, for you, what kept you from putting Texas A&M number 1? What were some of the flaws or things that are something you saw on another team that had them as number 1 for you?
UVA returning what they return is absolutely insane. I mean, they only had one guy with an OPS under 1,000 in their top like 10 guys. And that was Luke Hansen, who was at like 876 or something. Like he was still really, really good. And
Luke Hansen gets no love, by the way.
Luke Hansen is legit, and he gets no love in that order, but he's a productive player. They bring in Chris Arroyo, who's a 2-way star. You and I saw him in the fall, and he's a 20-plus home run guy. Aiden Teal's going to play the outfield. If that name sounds familiar, he's the younger brother of Kyle Teal, and he only hits for extra base hits. He had 10 at-bats last year, and all 3 home runs and 1 double. And then the pitching staff is much deeper and much improved off last year. We were just talking off the record before the show about Evan Blanco possibly having an uptick in velocity from what we're hearing in reports. So this Virginia team to me was the number 1 team with A&M number 2, but I don't think you can go wrong either way. So obviously I didn't have too much of an issue with our final standings coming out with Texas A&M in front, but I just had UVA edging them a little bit. I like the overall makeup a little bit better. And then, of course, if it's coming down to the rosters being similar enough, I'm going to go ahead and take Brian O'Connor, a Hall of Famer, over first-year Michael Early.
No, I dig it. I mean, you look at UVA's bench, too. We talked about the starting lineup, but you have like Antonio Perota there, Trey Wells behind the dish, who was raking this fall, Aiden Harris, who's like one of the top prep guys in the area, in the DMV area. Like, it's just nuts.
Yeah, I really like the freshmen they've got that are going to be able to develop, because we saw Aiden Harris, and he's got prodigious power, but he's a bit raw, and I think he made a good decision to go to college rather than, potentially being a top 1 or 2 round pick, because he's going to need some time to kind of get used to, hitting the baseball on a more consistent basis with the swing and miss rate.
Yeah. I love it. For us, the number 2 team came in as the University of Tennessee. Tony V is going to try to get them back-to-back College World Series championships. Hard to do. What, South Carolina's the last one to do it? Who's the last one?
That sounds right. 2010, 2011.
I do believe it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although Virginia and Vanderbilt played two times in a row in 14-15 and flipped.
That's right. This team's also stacked though. Like I think, Tyler, we also talked about this on the last podcast as well. Like they lost Christian Moore, they lost Blake Burke, they lost Billy Emick, they lost Drew Beam. Dylan Dreiling, Kavaris Tears, AJ Cause, like all these guys to the draft, yet they're still absolutely stacked. For you, who's some of the guys that are really standing out for you for this Tennessee Volunteers?
Yeah, I mean, we've obviously talked about how Curley and Fisher are the two big guys for me. Like Curley's probably the top draft eligible sophomore this year. And Fisher, from what I've heard, there's a minor injury, so he might not even be in the starting lineup on Friday. Kind of like seeing how that kind of flows in, because he wasn't in the scrimmage lineup the other day, so they're holding him out. But moving past those guys, like they've got a good crop of freshmen that came in. Jay Abernathy looks like he's going to hold down a left field spot this year, and be like a top of the order spark plug for them. Levi Clark apparently hit a walk-off bomb the other day in scrimmage. Tegan Coons is probably going to start as a midweek, but maybe move into the weekend rotation at some point this year, depending on what happens with AJ Russell. So, just looking at those three guys alone, you see what they've also brought in. Like, you get Alberto Zuna out of basically thin air. Like 2 weeks before the season starts, it's like, hey, where's Alberto Zuna at Tampa? And it's like, oh, hey, by the way, he's now the first baseman at Tennessee, and that was like their one kind of big like weakness coming into this year, because obviously Blake Burke's gone, so you're losing that power, but now you get probably the biggest power bat from the right side in college baseball. That's maybe not Ethan Petrie in terms of power, but Alberto Zuna's power is going to end up with a ball into the river over there. I wouldn't be shocked. And obviously you're looking at a bounce back year from Cannon Peebles, who he was also another guy that didn't play in the scrimmage the other day, but it sounds like he'll be good to go. But then you look at the rotation kind of to start the year. Brandon Arbinson coming from JUCO, he's probably going to be your Sunday guy. Nate Meade's come up. Liam Doyle is now on campus, and Liam Doyle has a sneakily underrated fastball. Sneed's apparently switched out his like gyro slider cutter for more of like a sweeper. So he's got more of a pitch mix to go with a starting role. And as much as it's like he's going to lose velo from what he was last year, like he was an upper 90s guy with sink. He might be more mid 90s, but it is still valuable both on the college side and draft side. Like that's just the inevitable thing with kind of converting that reliever to a starter. You're going to lose velocity, but if he maintains the same kind of stuff, you're looking at a guy that can still be very successful. And then of course, AJ Russell coming back mid-season, supposedly, that's, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's probably the most disgusting fastball in college baseball right now. When that thing is on, it is on. I think when he struck out 10 batters against Texas Tech, I believe it was to start the year last year, he had like 21 swings and misses on the fastball alone. It was some ludicrous number. And like it's a 6'6" guy with like a 5-foot release height and a super flat fastball. Like he's made out of a lab essentially. It is really wild to have a guy that big get a release height that low and miss that many bats. So there's a ton of guys, and that's not even to mention like Marcus Phillips too. Like Marcus Phillips is going to have a giant role for this club this year. So I'm really excited to see what Tennessee can bring to the table. That's why I'm still, the high guy on them. Like, yes, they won the national title last year, lost all those guys, but they reloaded pretty quickly and did a fair job of bringing in like Gavin Keelan, Fisher, and Doyle from Ole Miss. So, I'm excited to see what they can do. And they've got some good depth. Like Reese Chapman's going to be thrown into the fire this year. I think Stone Lawless is his name, as a sophomore, has been getting some opportunities in scrimmages recently. So this is just a thin roster. This is they're coming back to go for Omaha or bust again. And that was kind of the key for me to push them at number one on my personal list. Was it's hard to knock down the national champion when, like Monty said, it's a first-year head coach with Michael Early and Texas A&M. It's kind of tough. Like you look at the roster on paper, it looks really good. Florida was kind of that last year, and Florida, as much as they winded up in Omaha, they were really underwhelming for most of the year. Not saying Texas A&M could be that kind of team, but there's a lot of uncertainties that happen in college baseball.
Yeah, Monty, I was going to ask you, just in terms of Tennessee, what do you think their chances of repeating are?
I think it's going to be really difficult for me. I don't remember quite where I ranked them. I think I had them 3, but after since some time has passed, I'm not sure I'd put them above LSU or Arkansas in terms of the pitching depth those two teams have.
Yeah.
That's that for me. You lose that whole weekend rotation, and that's just tough. You got to hope Nate Snead makes that adjustment. Liam Doyle needs to pitch better than he did in Oxford last year. So I just think there's some question marks with Tennessee that would probably put me closer to 5 or 6 in the standings if I redid my top 25. But they do have a very good chance. Omaha, they have reloaded really well, but we've seen the hangover come into play each of the last 3 years, basically since the pandemic. Ole Miss has not been back to the NCAA tournament since. Mississippi State took a hot second to get back there. And then LSU last year, they weren't doing real well. It looked like they were going to miss the tournament for a while before they got red hot towards the end of the year to get into that Chapel Hill regional. And then, we're taken out there. And they have successfully reloaded pretty well from what they lost. So similar situation to the 2024 LSU team where they've got that talent. It's just a matter of figuring out the pieces quickly. Because I think with LSU, it was some of the roles you had to figure out, and it takes a couple of weeks sometimes or longer, which is when you run into some trouble early in the season. So we'll be interested to see how Tennessee comes out because they're not going to have much time to figure things out if they want to, make a run at defending their title.
Yeah. Season's short, and the schedules are never super long, so you have to figure out who's going to be your guys. And I think that we talked about that before too with LSU. Like they have so many guys, and they're going to have to figure out like who those guys are going to be. We have some changes to the conferences that have happened that also could play a big role in kind of who's going to make it to Omaha. Monty, I know you were on the breaking news on the new ACC championship that's happening. Take us into that and like kind of what that means for the ACC conference.
So for the last almost 20 years, the ACC has done a pool play round robin type tournament, and that's not the best way to do things. Number one, it's confusing. You're not sure who, like if you're just a casual fan, even if you're an expert fan, sometimes it's hard to tell because the tiebreaker was if you're the higher ranked team, you just had to win one game and you automatically advanced. As long depending on who you played, but it got even right now as I'm trying to explain it, it's confusing. And it also had meaningless games a lot of times on Thursday and Friday heading into the weekend. So they have gone to a 16-team single elimination tournament and not a full 16 kind of standard. It's going to be a double bye for the top 4 seeds and then a single bye for the 5 through 8 seeds, but it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be interesting to see how Cal and Stanford adjust. Now, Stanford will be at NC State to end the year, which is helpful for them because they can just stay in Raleigh and go right into that. But them and Cal are still going to be fighting to avoid being one of the early games on Tuesday or Wednesday. That'll be at 6 a.m. Pacific time starts. So it's going to be real interesting. And Cal is at home to end the year, so they will be traveling. And then if they had the 6 o'clock game, I mean, that's just brutal.
They got to do something to work around that.
Yeah, somebody asked me if Cal and Stanford would consider just skipping the ACC tournament altogether, which no way that happens. But you'd be tempted to, right? If you're Cal and you there's no reason to go for it. You're maybe in the tournament already. Why would you just forfeit the one game and stay at home and rest? I don't know, but it's a really interesting development there. But there's no perfect scenario for the conference tournament because there's just not time or logistics, and you're trying to make sure you're ready to go. But I think this is the best possible solution given the circumstances.
Yeah, and you talked a little bit about kind of that complicated schedules for a lot of these new conference alignments, right? The ACC's got Oregon, UCLA, USC, Washington coming in from the West Coast. Big Ten's got Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah, and then, Big 12's got Arizona, Arizona State, and then Utah. US got these backwards. Oregon, UCLA, USC, Washington are going to the Big Ten, and then Cal and Stanford are joining the ACC. So you have all these West Coast teams just getting realigned. I mean, what do you think that impact is going to be for travel for teams like trying to manage these schedules this year?
I think it's ridiculous. I mean, I've said this before. I wish football was able to do its own thing because it's not a big deal. But I mean, I can't. These are students first, and especially in the ACC and the Big Ten and the Big 12. it's classes first. Stanford is very serious academically. That's why they don't have any transfers coming in there, because they can't get transfers in there. Same thing with Notre Dame has trouble getting undergrad transfers. So, they've got to go across country for a series and then come home, and that's going to be brutal. And everyone's going to have their advantages and disadvantages, but I think it's going to be rough on Cal and Stanford. But I know they're taking whatever precautions they can to make it easier. I don't think we saw too much of an issue during football season. I haven't necessarily looked too closely into the basketball stuff just because I've been so focused on baseball, but I'm curious to see how that's affected the basketball teams with a little bit closer schedule.
Yeah, I guess with basketball, like, at least it's one and you're done, right? Like you have to go play a 3-game weekend series. We talked about this offline, Monty, but like Oregon's coming to play Maryland in a 3-game series, and then Monday at 11 a.m. they're playing Georgetown, and then they're flying out after that game, I assume.
Yeah,
like, that's
and
nuts.
Stanford has a ton of Monday games too when they play at home, so that they can because midweeks are almost impossible for these teams that are traveling across the country.
Yeah,
you're not going to be able to play Tuesday, Wednesday, because you need to be able to be in Raleigh on Thursday.
Yeah, it's nuts. Tyler, do you have any thoughts? I know you go to the ACC tournament every year. Do you have any thoughts on kind of like the conference realignments or the tournament itself?
So my thoughts on conference realignment is the same thing as Monty. Like I do wish football was its own entity, so that we're looking at this as more of like these students have so much more priorities than just their respective sports. So it's really tough kind of looking at some of these schools, like you mentioned Stanford. Like Duke's another one that's really academically gifted, I guess is probably the right word for it. They're not, I don't want to say they're as restricted as like Stanford is with like their academics. I know Duke does a good job of recruiting. Shout out Sikowski, OG. But that's another school that you look at that and you go, academics are kind of leeway there. So it's interesting. I really, like I said, really want football to kind of just do its own separate thing where, like, I know with some of the ACC schools, like NC State, for example, is like an ACC D2 hockey team or something like that. And they're in a conference with like Liberty and App State. So I'm like,
it's weird.
I think those are club sports because of Title IX. I don't think.
I
think that's why those schools, like, there's a ton of schools that have hockey teams, and they're technically clubs, I think, but they're about as close as you can get to D1 without being D1 because they need the Title IX stuff.
But did that happen with some of the other like Pac-12 split-offs, right? They joined like certain conferences for certain sports, and then
Washington State, I think, is in the Mountain West for something.
Yeah. So it's weird.
Yeah. But so I'll kind of pull that back. Tyler, uneducated over here. However, kind of going on to the point of what Monty made about the pool play with the ACC and kind of like how some of those games were meaningless. I do like this aspect of the 16-team single elimination. Like now, every game does matter, which is a good thing. Like I think that's exactly what the conference kind of needed because you look at some of the scheduling they had last year. I want to say like NC State Duke was like the nightcap for like day 2 or 3 last year in Charlotte, and I think Duke won the night before, or NC State won the night before, and Duke had to play another game. So if Duke won that game first, it was going to be fine for them to advance, and they did, and then they won the whole thing. So that their second game just was there for practice.
It was NC State. It was the other way around.
Okay.
Yeah, Duke beat Tech and then had to play NC State. And if NC State had won, they would have advanced. But NC State lost, and then Virginia Tech, NC State was a pointless game.
Gotcha. That's what it was. I knew they were all in the same grouping. I just couldn't remember the exact order. Thank you, Monty, for being for being a homie on that one.
Yeah.
But another thing too that kind of like strikes into me is like going to do 4 games at the DBAT this year might be a logistical nightmare a bit. Because, I mean, we've gotten lucky in the past couple years with weather kind of holding off, which is a good thing. We've not had to run into that issue. I think the last big issue we had with rain at the ACC tournament was 23 semifinals that had to be played at UNC and the DBAP because of the storms that were coming through.
Yep, and I got robbed of seeing all 15 games. I had to settle for 14 games out of the 15 because you had to pick one because they were at the same time.
Yep, I do, because it was Miami, UNC, or Miami and someone else playing at UNC.
Miami and Wake at UNC, and
Okay.
then Clemson and UNC at the DBAP.
Wow, they didn't even give UNC home field advantage. That's amazing.
Well, that's probably why.
Yeah, done on purpose.
Yeah. So like I kind of look at that and go, if weather does play a factor this year, that's going to cause a lot of commotion with a four game schedule for those first 2 days. I'm sure once we get to like semifinal Saturday, or even like Thursday, Friday is like a 2 or 3 game slate. So those first 2 days, if something goes wrong, there might be a bit of a logistical nightmare with trying to reschedule those games. So I'm interested to see what happens.
Tyler, even if you have extra innings, like
yeah,
I mean, because it's 9 a.m. 12. I think it's 9 a.m., 1 p.m., 5 p.m., and 9 p.m. So if there's any rain or extra innings, it's a long day. Yeah, and so Tyler and I, who are there for all the games, are we'll just bring a sleeping bag, I guess, for the for the ACC tournament just to get some sleep. But yeah, it's the nice thing is though is that Wednesday or Thursday, Friday, Saturday are all 2 games.
Okay, that's what I had a feeling it was.
Because they got a grass section in the outfield.
Yeah,
it's pitch tense. Yeah, that's what you guys are doing for the tourney.
Dude, here's the funny thing. Like with the DBAP, I don't have to get a hotel for that because it's usually just like a 55-minute drive for me. And it's quicker now because of the fact that they finally opened up the little bypass. I think 440 is now a toll road. Yeah, I think I'm still going to have to get a hotel this year.
How early are they taking BP for a 9 a.m. start?
Sorry, it's going to be like, what, 7?
I wouldn't be shocked if it's 7.
And if it's Cal Stanford, that's 4 a.m. Their body time.
They cannot make Cal and Stanford play that 9 a.m. game.
No, they really can't. I'm sorry.
I think it's based on the seating, though. It's
that's true.
Yeah.
I think at some point you have to step in as a commissioner and just be like, okay, you got in at 2 a.m. this morning. Like, now we're going to make you do BP at 7. Like, have fun, by the way. Yeah. You also have a 3-hour time difference. Enjoy the jet lag.
Have fun.
Welcome to the
ACC. The last kind of top story I want to go into here before we go in a little bit more into the top 25, do some conference predictions. Tyler, I want to turn this one a little bit over to you. The big story, I think, in terms of like talent is just the top 2 pitchers in college baseball this year. Jimmy Arnold out of Florida State and Tyler Bremner out of UC Santa Barbara. You've got both these guys ranked, I think, 2 and 3. Arnold 2 on your draft board and Bremner 3. Talk a little bit about like how fun it's going to be to watch these guys pitch this year.
It's going to be insanely fun. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We've already had Elijah go out and get Bremner the other day, and right and right changeups, baby. Like, and I also had somebody text me. They were like, "How is he getting up to the upper 90s from that kind of like high release arms, like in that kind of backspin?" And it's impressive what Bremner's able to do with the fastball. The slider's obviously taken a step forward too. Last year went up from like a soft low 80s slider to like, oh, hey, by the way, this thing's got teeth at 88, 90 now. So have fun. And again, I've been on record saying that I think Bremner's changeup could be an 80 at the next level. I still fully believe that. Like, there's so much conviction, so much confidence to throw it to the same handedness. Tons of velocity separation, really just falls off the table. So, having the feel to land that for strikes consistently, like you would for like for example, Colton Smith landing a curveball or a slider for strikes with the pitchability he has. Bremner has that pitchability, he has that command, and he has the stuff to go with it. But then you look at what Arnold has. And, again, talking about Arnold being like a fastball slider guy mainly last year, because that's what he was. Didn't have much feel for a changeup for a majority of the year, but he was still dominating guys with that low release, low launch fastball that has crazy vertical carry at the top of the zone with a flat approach angle. and like a mid-80 sweeper with like 10 inches of sweeping action to it. So pairing that with the command, the fact that he's a left-handed arm, and lefties are going to get more of a benefit, considering there's just not that many of them. Is probably the best way to put it. They're more valuable in the scouting community. But now he's got a near screwball-esque pitch of a changeup now that he's been working on. And it's like he comes out throwing that this year. He might just be the best player in the draft. I fully believe that. So I just looking at what we have on our hands with this kind of pitching duel, I guess we can call it at this point. I genuinely would not be shocked at all to see Arnold and Bremner potentially being 1-2 on draft boards by April, May, anything like that. And there's other guys that can be put in that conversation too. The college side is just so wide open this year. And it was just with how weak of a class it is, just from top to bottom. Like there's not a ton of high-end guys that can really supersede each other. But there's also just not a ton of depth either. So there could be some guys that could just jump up the board and just say, hey, I'm a top 5 guy now.
Yeah.
Have fun. And just for me, like kind of looking at the prep side going into that too, like Gavin Fiend could be a guy that could now put himself in that conversation for 1-1. Obviously, like Willis is there, Appenziller, Seth Hernandez, Billy Carlson, those guys. But I honestly think there's going to be a lot of discourse, a lot of change coming onto the draft scene within the next couple of months. And that's what makes this job so exciting. It really is. Like nothing is ever predictable in this unless it's like a year where, okay, Adley Rutschman has been 1-1 for 3 years.
Yeah.
Like we know that for a fact because how talented he was at Oregon State, but we just don't have that this year. And even looking at what we had a couple years ago, Paul Skeens wasn't really viewed as the 1-1 guy going into that fall, even before
Cruz, mostly.
It was Cruz and Dolander.
Yeah.
And then Cruz obviously ended up being 1-2. Dolander fell to 8th. And then Paul Skeens just went from being like a 92, 95 sinker cutter guy at Air Force to, oh, hey, by the way, I now throw a 101 and can put it wherever the hell I want to with a slider that had 15 inches of sweep.
Yep.
And a really good changeup. And now he's arguably one of the best young pitchers in all of baseball. So a lot can change. A lot happens in which is why I always say you have to be fine with being wrong 99% of the time. But, moving past that little tangent, Bremner and Arnold could be just the most anticipated like pitching duel from across the country to kind of watch this year. Because, you look at some of the other guys that are behind them on the depth charts, like Matt Scott, Kyson Witherspoon, maybe even throw somebody like, spitballing here, Colton Smith. Those guys don't have quite the same kind of stuff or command that Bremner and Arnold have. So that's why they're a little bit more buried on the list. But you have two guys that one's lefty, one's righty. So you get to see the comparison of how scouting communities do treat the southpaw versus righty debacle, while also looking at with 3 really good pitches, exceptional command, and just pitch their butts off every Friday night. I'm really excited to see how this kind of unfolds this year. And like I said, for me, I would not be shocked if either one of these guys is the best player in the draft this year.
Yeah, I wasn't laughing during your speech at you. I just was laughing at Monty bursting at the seams, ready to talk about Jamie Arnold because he looked like he was about to jump out of his seat.
Go for it, buddy.
I have an agenda. Who has the first round or who has the first pick of the draft, by the way?
You do.
That's right. The Washington Nationals.
Well, not Monty himself.
Yeah, well, Mike Rizzo might give me a call. You never know. But no, that pitch he's added is just absolutely disturbing. Like it'll keep people up at night. Like it's going to cause nightmares. That's not me being hyperbolic. It's going to keep hitters up at night. It's probably keeping some of his own teammates up at night at this point. Like, because that's all they're seeing in practice. So I'm really excited. He is going to be, if I was the Nationals, I'd take him number 1 overall. We know Mike Rizzo loves pitchers. I know he was pissed that he didn't get to draft Paul Skeens because I think if he had been able to draft number 1, and Dylan Cruz is amazing. but Mike Rizzo just loves pitchers, and he probably saw the second coming of Strasburg, and which is probably the closest comparison I can give for Paul Skeens. It's as if Steven Strasburg if he didn't get hurt. So just an absolute sense. Yeah, I've gone off a tangent with Strasburg and Skeens somehow, but yeah, I'm Arnold all day. Give me Jamie.
What do you tell your hitters in the fall when they're like facing Brebner and Arnold? Like, hey guys, just go up there and try. Just see what happens.
Well, it's funny. I asked Alex Lodis about it, and he sounded like he had like PTSD. But then, like in the pregame press conference, Jamie Arnold's like, "Yeah, Alex Lodis hit 2 home runs off me," and I'm like, the way Alex had made it sound is as if it's like the worst thing ever, and yet he's had success against you. That's pretty funny.
Axe Max Williams. I've seen enough video from I think it's Brett down there, where it's like Max Williams just swinging under fastballs in the zone from Arnold, and like I love Max Williams. Don't get me wrong, that power is ridiculous from the left side. But I'm sure that kind of at bat is what keeps Max Williams up at night and has night terrors at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, 100%.
That Florida State lineup is very, very good, and they do not look like they're having a good time.
No,
against Jamie. Yeah,
good practice for Jamie. I want to kind of shift in back to the top 25. We talked about Texas A&M, the top 3: Texas A&M, Tennessee, Virginia. For you guys, out of the top 25, who's like kind of one of your favorite teams? It doesn't have to be one of the top 3, but like the team that you're just most excited to watch this year. Monty, I'm sure it's Virginia for you, but who you got?
It's hard to say because I get so excited. If you ask me at a different time of day, it's going to be a different ACC team. And right now, there's 2 in my head, but I think did we rank Stanford?
We did not.
Oh,
no, we did.
Stanford.
We did.
No, we don't have them. They're not ranked.
Well, then I will go with Wake
Forest.
They
are 20th. Sorry.
Yeah, they're down around NC State and DBU.
There's 4 red teams next to each other, and they all blended into me.
I was debating between Stanford and Wake Forest. I'll go with Stanford in that rotation, plus Rintaro. Plus, I mean, they're going to have to try and find some power from somewhere other than Rintaro. Whether it's Charlie Somm, Luke Lavin, Brandon Larson, guys like that are going to have to step up and provide some power. I mean, when they're at home, I don't think they're going to need power that much because the second diamond is massive. But when they're on the road in some of these more hitter-friendly ACC ballparks, they're going to need to find some power from someone other than Rintaro. But that rotation is absolute filth. And the bullpen should be a lot better with Trevor Moore and Torin O'Haron at the back. So, Joey Volchko could be a top 10 draft pick in the 2026 draft. Tyler already mentioned Matt Scott as one of those guys that's a probable first-round pick in this year's draft. And then Christian Lim, who is the 3rd starter, is just a reigning freshman All-American. So they have a really good chance to compete. And I think it's interesting. I had to ask if we had ranked them because a number of media outlets have not, and some have. So there's a big gap between the belief in Stanford. So it's going to be really interesting. I think that's really exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. I love Stanford. I think that's a great pick. We had Matt Scott on, like that guy talked about like having a good head on your shoulders and like just kind of being a leader. That guy's going to be fun to watch to see what steps he takes in his game. And I think it's going to be a fun team.
And he's tall.
Yeah.
He's tall. Yeah. When I was making the Stanford graphic for College Baseball Central, I was going through Instagram photos and there was a couple of the players that were out of uniform, and they're like, Matt Scott's like still 2 to 3, 4 inches taller than everybody else.
Yeah. Tyler, who do you got?
So I could be a homer here and go NC State. I think NC State's pitching is probably the best in the ACC. Like you're getting Willitson back this year. You're getting Fritton back, and then you've also got an interesting kind of duo you can put at the Sunday spot with like Marone, or you could even put in maybe even someone like Consiglio. But then you look at the bullpen, like Jacob Duden, Derek Smith, Cooper Consiglio, Camden Wimbish looks like James Karinchak 2.0. And I think they're going to have a decent lineup this year. Like I think Josh Ogew's kind of underrated. Obviously broke his leg last year in a pretty horrific outfield incident. But as much as I would love to kind of go more in depth on that team,
you just cheated with your answers. You just gave a really in-depth spiel, and now you're shifting. Well played. Well played. Go ahead.
Savannah, or what's her name? Savannah. I can't pronounce her last name.
Tujay.
2J. She's gonna probably get back in my mentions and say, "What the heck, Tyler?" But Wake Forest, honestly, like kind of looking at that roster and what they've had on the pitching side this year, bringing in Matt Dallas, bringing in Logan Lunsford, looking at those guys and what they've done this spring so far. Lunsford has allowed like 1 hit across like 3 scrimmages and has struck out. I think he was perfect his first outing with no walks, had like 7 strikeouts in 3 innings. Dallas is not walking as many guys. Command looks better. But Joe Arriola has also struck out 22 guys in 11 innings with like 4 walks.
Pretty good.
No runs, I believe.
And that's good.
Or maybe 1. It was something really ridiculous.
And that's not even mentioning like Josh Gunther, Blake Morningstar, Matt Bedford is probably going to be their closer this year. They're loaded again on the pitching side, and as much as it's not like Rhett Lauder, Josh Hartle, all those guys that they had a couple years ago during their Omaha run, that's still really impressive to have. And you know, we talked with Coach Muscara about this a couple weeks ago when we had him on. He said he wasn't sure who the rotation was because of how deep their pitching staff is, and he thinks it's the deepest they've had in his time here at Wake Forest. So, I really do think that Wake Forest is going to surprise a couple people this year. I wouldn't be shocked if they're a top 10 team going in ACC play, and that's not even to mention the lineup. Like, trying to think of the name, Dalton Wentz is the guy that came from. He was a South Carolina committed to Wake Forest late, and now looks like he might have a starting job somewhere in the infield. Ethan Conrad's going to be a guy to watch this year. Javar Williams, obviously Merrick Houston is going to be a big name to watch. So I'm really in on this Wake Forest team. I really do think that with the pitching that they have and kind of that firepower in the lineup too, like I wouldn't be shocked if this is a team that kind of sneaks its way into like a super regional, maybe even a back end like random Omaha appearance. I wouldn't be shocked if they do that. Maybe a hot take, but
catcher Jimmy Keenan's also really underrated. I think going under the radar from St. John's.
I forgot about Keenan because he was injured during the fall.
Yeah. Yep. I was really excited to see him too, and he was out. And I remember St. John's came to the Charlottesville Regional last year, and if you looked up and down St. John's roster, he was really the one dangerous bat in that lineup that you were looking at. Yeah.
So yeah, like that's. I think they're going to surprise them too. And I know we're talking only specifically like ACC teams right now. Maybe to kind of go into like some other conferences like. Oklahoma.
Tyler's just rattling off everything.
He's going to a third team now.
He's like, let me throw out 3.
Jared can give a non-ACC answer.
Yeah, I was going to go non-ACC.
Okay, Jared, go ahead. Sorry,
Tyler was probably going to take yours.
Who was it going to be, Tyler? Who was it going to be?
It was going to be either Oregon or Oklahoma.
Okay, I wasn't going to either of those, so that's good. I was going with interesting. The Texas Longhorns. That's who I was picking. I really like that lineup with Kimball Schuessler. They have Easton Winfield, Max Bellew, Jalen Flores. Like that is a great core to kind of build around. They brought in Ethan Mendoza, I think it's an Arizona State kickback. Like that lineup is just a ton of fun power wise, ton of fun hit wise. Pitching staff is a little bit sketchy. There's some good arms there. Like Ruger Rojas is going to be coming out of the bullpen. I think he's going to be the closer for them, or is lined up to be the closer. I just think there's a lot of question marks and kind of who's going to round out that rotation. They got Jared Spencer from Indiana State. Luke Harrison has like shown some potential, but you just don't know what you're going to quite get out of him. I like the team. I think Schloss has put together a good team in his first year. I think they could make some noise. But yeah, that's my team. Sorry, Monty.
Can I talk about Oregon and Oklahoma now?
You're fine. I've got more teams to talk about. We just go through every top 25 team now.
We're not even going to let Tyler pick a sleeper for Omaha because he's just named 7 teams. So Tyler's like, let me get 7 in. I got 7.
Dude, this is how you know I'm college baseball when I'm starting to just like ramble about teams because I'm sitting here. It's like I just want to get on the plane. I just really do. I want to get on the plane right now.
Well, and I'm sitting here like I really want to give 4 answers too, but I went first, so I had to stick with 1. And Tyler's starting to reel off others, and I was like, "Oh, give me the mic back."
You're like, let me go.
And Jared's like, "I'm more than just a host."
Yeah, I do know some things. I know one or two things about college baseball. Not a lot, but
I'm
still
getting
know
roasted
something.
over here. Shit.
Okay, tell us about Oregon. Go. You're on the clock. You got 10 seconds.
I got 10
We're
seconds.
all on the clock.
Okay, cool. Grayson Grinsell, probably pitcher of the year in the Big Ten. Mason Neville, Jeffrey Hurd, Jacob Walsh are coming back. Maddox Maloney is probably going to be their top 2026 prospect this upcoming year.
Yeah.
I think Oregon they've been on the doorstep recently to knock down that door to go to Omaha. I think this might be their year.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. I think I did the God, I'm getting my conferences confused. The Big Ten conference preview, and I think Oregon's got a good shot at winning the Big Ten. Yeah, unless you can get someone else to make some noise, but
Indiana's probably their main competition, I would imagine, right?
Nebraska. Probably.
Yeah.
Nebraska. Yep, they look good, but Oregon just feels deeper than those teams.
Yeah.
Who, Tyler?
Illinois might be a bit of a shocker too.
Mike Gambino at Penn State.
Yeah, Penn State too, and
Maryland.
We're getting ahead of ourselves with the Big Ten.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, I know. I cover the ACC mostly, but the Big Ten, I cannot wait how that. Yeah, I don't know how many teams they're going to get in. I don't know how good they're going to be top to bottom, but in terms of pure like anarchy, in terms of like where teams are going to like finish up, I can't wait because like Minnesota and Ohio State are two lower end teams that could threaten to be up higher. I'm going to have to take some time to watch the Big Ten. I can't wait. Oh man, we're just getting so excited.
Yeah,
tomorrow, right?
Yeah. Noah Darling's probably listening to us in the background. I was like, yes.
Midwest baseball. Learn about it.
He's actually, at the time of this recording, he's actually working on Midwest baseball content. So
I love it.
I would be shocked if he wasn't, to be honest with you.
Should we move on to the sleeper that you think is going to go to Omaha? This
Yes,
doesn't have to be a
please.
top 25 team. So
Yes,
it can
please,
be
because I'm going to start knocking off more teams here. So let's move on.
I'm going deep.
Go for it, Monty.
My sleeper. All right. I'm going deep. I'm going south. I'm going Atlanta. The Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. I believe that their pitching is going to be that much better. I'm a strong believer in Tate McKee. I really like Riley Stanford and Carson Ballard, who finish out their likely weekend rotation. They've got to figure out that bullpen, but we know that their offense is going to rake. Drew Burris is going to take him to Omaha either this year or next year before he leaves. And so Georgia Tech is a deep, deep sleeper for me. That's not necessarily to say they'll go and host a regional, be a number 1 seed. They might get hot at the right time as like a 2 or 3 seed, but I truly believe in their ability to get it done at the end of the season with the pitching they have. And Kyle Lodise, Kent Schmidt, guys they brought in with all the recruiting class. It's a top 5 recruiting class. James Ramsey's done a fantastic job as the recruiting coordinator and hitting coach. I am all in on Georgia Tech getting to Omaha this year or next. That might also count as my bold take, but let's go deep sleeper with Georgia Tech to Omaha.
I like that pick a lot. I think that's great. We've been sticking a lot in the ACC. Tyler, do you have someone that's not in the ACC? Or are you going ACC too?
No, I'm not going ACC this time. This was one of the other teams I was going to talk about before I had to be stopped because I was going to ramble for far too long.
Jared's about to utilize that mute button.
Yeah, I was about to say I would not be mad if you did that. I'm in timeout for a minute and talk too much.
Tyler will be back in 5 minutes.
But Oklahoma. Honestly, like I've seen some major outlets have them kind of finishing middle of the pack, maybe even farther back in the SEC this year, around that 10 seed going into Hoover. I kind of just don't see it. Like, I think what Oklahoma has done really well recently, and Kansas could definitely be put into this mix as well with JUCO recruiting. They are consistently one of the top guys. Skip Johnson does a great job on that recruiting trail. Dawson Willis, Brandon Kane, 2 big guys I know of. They got the Witherspoon twins from JUCO last year. And it sounds like Kyson's got the Friday spot and Malachi's got the Saturday spot. And Malachi's been up to 99. And you know, for me, this is including like some draft stuff. Like for me, Malachi's got the more athletic delivery. I think there's more strikes there than what Kyson has because Kyson's arm swing is a bit stabby for me and inconsistent. Yeah. And if Malachi going to be what we've all seen this spring, like been up to 99 with a hammer curveball and a really, really good slider. It might be a really tough 1-2 punch at the top of that rotation. And not to mention, like, Cade Crossland, another JUCO guy, could be another guy that fills in that Sunday spot with like a really, really good changeup, fastball with some run, has feel for spinning a breaking ball. Jaden Barfield's another guy that kind of fits that role. And Cam Johnson's now on campus and went from being like a 90-94 guy to like, hey, I'm bumping 98 at the end of fall. So they've got some depth on the pitching side. And you look at what they have with the bats, with the JUCO guys that I mentioned with Willis and Kane. They get Easton Carmichael back this year. He's their top, hitting prospect. So I'm kind of interested to see how Oklahoma performs. They go to South Carolina first week of SEC play, so I'll make an attempt to be there. But I'm pretty in on what they have in Norman, and I think Skip Johnson and Reggie Willis are going to do a good job with holding that team down. If I remember correctly, they had a regional last year.
I think so.
They took out Duke.
Yeah.
Okay.
UConn won the regional, but Oklahoma eliminated
UConn.
Duke.
Okay, yeah. So like, I wouldn't be shocked if Oklahoma is hosting a regional again. I really don't.
UConn and their 7 grad transfers that they probably had.
Don't talk crap about UConn because they will be on the doorstep of another Omaha.
Oh, I don't.
Appearance.
I love UConn.
and I love UConn's what they've done with their schedule. They are playing a brutal schedule. Midweeks against UNC and Duke back to back is bold, but
they love to go south.
Yeah,
when they go
triangle,
south early.
I guess.
I'm gonna go deep just like Monty did, and I'm gonna go with a mid-major. That I'm gonna go bold here. No, it's not gonna be Gardner Webb. Sorry, Gardner Webb.
They haven't even made the NCAA tournament as a D1 school, so that would have been really, really deep.
Yeah, I'm picking UC Santa Barbara, the Big West champions. They're going to be the Big West champions again. They got Tyler Bremner, as Tyler talked about earlier. He's one of the best pitchers in the entire nation. They have Cole Triba, who's absolutely filthy as well, to back that up. They added some transfers in Frank Camarillo, Jackson Flora, and Chase Hoover. One transfer in Chase Hoover, then the other 2 were already there. But then they also have some really intriguing bats. They don't have the lineup's my biggest concern with the Gauchos. Like, are they going to hit enough to really help get them through the playoffs? But when you have a 1-2 punch in Triba and Bremner like that, I mean, that's going to help carry you through the playoffs. And I think this team is super excited. They'll be looking to host their 2nd consecutive regional. And I want to see a mid-major get to Omaha, and I'm going to go with UC Santa Barbara. Sorry, Gardner Webb.
As someone who's going to be in Omaha, I want all ACC, SEC again. So don't give me any Cinderellas.
Yeah, I'm still going out on the limb and saying, hot take, ACC is better than the SEC this year.
We're going to clip it again.
Yeah. Well, we got to let them ramble a little bit to get a longer clip.
Yeah, true. I mean, hey, like people, I remember Monty, you had retweeted it and had a bunch of SEC guys in your mentions trying to like give me crap. There's like 1 or 2 people that did give me props for it. So like, hey, those 2 people, I think it was Savannah and somebody else. Respect to you guys. That was really like, I think the one guy even said it's like, so the others are afraid to say it. I'm like, I mean, they wanted bold. I gave bold. Yeah, but I also think it's realistic.
Well, we're gonna have reasons again. So
yeah. They conveniently ignore the bold part. Like it's supposed to be a controversial statement.
Yes,
that's also true. But again, they got bold.
Mm-hmm.
I provided the bold on that one.
Yeah, I dig it. I loved it. Speaking of conferences, I think we should do some conference predictions. So we're going to predict the 4 major conferences champions. Let's start with
regular
the
season.
Regular season.
Yeah. So because obviously anyone could win in the tournament.
Anyone can win in the tourney. So, Monty, we'll start with you since we're going ACC. Who's the ACC champion?
I think UNC could repeat as the regular season champions. They've got a pretty nice home schedule. I don't think they go out west. They host Stanford. I think UNC's got a really favorable home schedule. And then, of course, they went 14-1 last year at home in the conference. So they've got a chance to do that again. And if you only lose 1 or 2 times at home and go 500 on the road, you're gonna have a pretty nice record. I mean, you can't really go 500 on the road because there's 15 games, but if you go 7-8 or 8-7, you'll be fine. So I really like UNC, but there's obviously 8 teams or something ranked in the top 25, and any one of them plus Georgia Tech and Louisville will have a chance to impress us. So we'll find out.
Tyler, who you got?
So I'm going to go for the rival down the street in Duke. For me, we mentioned earlier recruiting has been top notch over at Duke the past couple of years, and I think they got a really good class this year. Hey, that's mean. But you get a couple. Go ahead.
I just said shout out.
Oh, I thought you said shut up. I thought you said my bad. Oh my God.
I was like, shout out to Sikowski, like we did earlier. I didn't realize.
I'm going to be honest with you. I thought you said shut up. I apologize.
That would have been really rude and would not have me on the podcast again.
He's like, Tyler, you're talking too much. All right, we've heard your takes all too much.
Hey, if you tell me to shut up, I'm fine with that.
Sorry for the interruption.
No, you're good. You're good. But you look at the Duke roster this year to get Ben Miller back, who Ben Miller was hitting 400 through halfway through ACC play last year. AJ Gracia is back. You get Ben Rounds, Jake Hyde from the Ivy League. Wallace Clark's back this year to be your shortstop,
and probably leadoff guy.
I believe so, because Zach Morris is not there anymore. I don't believe. I think he's graduated.
Yep.
And then you look on the mound. Andrew Healy's back. You're going to have Kyle Johnson, your two-way king, going to be back on the mound this year. And that final spot, I can't remember who exactly may be in there for that. I know Reed Easterly is on that roster and could have a chance for it. I think James Talon is probably the guy for it.
I think James Talon, yeah.
Yeah, and Talon's a pretty good arm. That fastball is sneaky underrated in the ACC. So they've still got pitching. I know they got poached pretty hard on the pitching side last year of Allschul, and there was another guy that was drafted. It was not Higgins because Higgins is back.
Charlie Bielenson?
Bielenson was gone.
Yeah.
And there was somebody else too. Wasn't there not?
Jimmy Romano.
Okay, that was the other one.
And then there was Josh Allen. I've got it right here. I don't know why I'm
Buffalo Bills.
Guessing.
No, wrong one.
I've got
we made that joke so many times.
Nick Conte was drafted in the 8th round by the Royals.
Royals, baby.
That was the one that was throwing me off.
He only made 7 appearances for Duke last year. 6 innings pitched. Was drafted in the 8th round.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was a senior, wasn't he?
He was one of those million arms that the Royals took in the middle rounds.
Yeah, but again, you look at that, they got a track record.
Yeah,
I do believe this is the year that Duke kind of knocks down that door, and and they have won in Charlotte the past 2 times the ACC has gone down there. And maybe that translates to Durham this year. I wouldn't be shocked. It's their hometown.
I love it. I dig that pick. I'm gonna go easy route. I'm gonna pick Virginia. I'm sorry. We talked about at length about how good Virginia's lineup is, and Monty, I think I agree with you too. The rotation, I think, doesn't get enough credit. Right? I know Virginia's had issues with arms in the past. They've been known for bringing in good arms too, though. And so, you look at Blanco being the guy on Friday nights. You have Woolfolk on Saturday, Arroyo or whoever you're going to throw out on Sunday. I think they have more depth, especially than they did last year. I know Jason brought up on our last podcast too that they lost a lot of pitching, but they also brought in a ton of pitching this year. Freshmen, transfers, they have some guys. So if they have guys who can get outs, I really believe that this team will win the ACC conference.
Yeah, they have a ton of arms.
Yeah,
it's really exciting. It's going to be interesting to see how you might take a second to settle out, but if Matt Augustine's good to go at the back end, that's going to be a big boost. And then you're hoping Blake Barker and Kevin Jacks will have bounce back years, and then Ryan Osinski. I could go on and on.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're challenging themselves early with Puerto Rico and Round Rock. So you got to love that.
Yeah. We'll switch gears to the Big Ten. Monty, you got excited about this conference. Who's your Big Ten champion?
I want to go on the Gambino train and go with Penn State.
Wow.
I love
dig it,
me
though.
I love me some Penn State. I think there's lots of options, and I know Oregon and Indiana's probably, and Nebraska's the trendy picks. But I know there's probably some concerns in the Penn State pitching department, but that lineup, it rakes. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Bryce Molinaro is legit.
Yeah.
I believe you guys both know that. Paxton Kling, I think, is going to enjoy a breakout season without the pressure of being an LSU, phenom on top of him. I think that's going to be huge. Then, of course, you've got a number of other guys like, Cole Mercado from Boston College. Is it Ryan Weingartner from St. Joseph's?
Yep.
And I just really like what they've gotten and brought in there. And Gambino, I believe it. I mean, what he did at Boston College in 2023 was absolutely bonkers.
Yeah,
and
that team was fun.
And I think he can replicate that at Penn State, especially with what they're investing in the program.
Yep, I love that. Tyler, who do you got?
Oregon, unfortunately. Said it before earlier, Grayson Grinsell, really, really good at the top of that. He gets this is draft nerd content, but 5'5" release height with 21 inches of vertical on a fastball. As much as it's upper 80s, that's still really good. He's got a great feel for a changeup. So I think he's definitely going to be an underrated guy to watch this year on the draft side. But, leading that Oregon squad, obviously Brock Moore's not there anymore. But that lineup is so good with Jeffrey Hurd, Mason Neville, Maddox Maloney, Jacob Walsh is back. That's a lot of firepower to put into that lineup. And I think they're probably going to be the most potent offense on the West Coast that isn't like Oregon State.
Yeah.
So for me, it's hard for me to go against them. And I'm not going to knock off any other names because I know you want to talk about people. So I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
I was actually going to go with Oregon too. But I'm going to switch it up and I'm going to go Nebraska just for fun. Okay. Let's just go in that route. I like the outfield that they have led by Gabe Swanson. They have Case Sanderson coming back. This lineup is pretty strong for Nebraska. And then they have an easy Friday night guy, Matthew McConaughey. I don't even know how to say his last name.
Matthew McConaughey?
McConaughey,
yeah.
Is that how it is?
No, I was just
McConaughey is the actor.
Oh, McConaughey. I just changed it a little bit.
Mason, sorry, and I said Matthew too because I got Matthew McConaughey stuck in my head.
That's what it was.
So that's where we're at.
It wasn't even my fault.
No. He finished 9-3 last year with a 3.45 ERA. It's like low 90s fastball, low 80s slider. Just a lot of experience that he's bringing to the rotation. Then they got Tyler Horn, who's the number 2 guy, and saw his stuff tick up a bit this fall. So I think they have what they need to win the Big Ten championship, and I'm going to go with them. I would have gone Oregon, but since Tyler took them, I was like, well, let's switch it up. Moving on to the Big 12. Tyler, let's start with you on this one. Who do you got for the Big 12? Sorry, Monty, you're getting skipped.
Wow. I feel bad for Monty. Arizona, probably my Big 12 pick.
Sad. Monty was going to pick Arizona.
I'm sorry,
especially
Monty.
when their coach is a 2019 World Series champion.
Yep. I knew that too because Chip Hale, legend.
Yep.
But honestly, looking at that Arizona lineup, obviously me and Jared are going to see it this weekend, but Brendan Summerhill, Easton Brayfogle, and Mason White are obviously the big 3 bats in there. Their pitching side is also really, really good too. Colin McKinney comes from Baylor. He's probably their Friday guy this year, and he's sneaky underrated. Gets up to 97 with a good fastball and a good mid-80 slider. Command's always been the kind of big bugaboo there, but I think with Arizona and what they have with, I think his name's John DeRuin. I could be mistaken on that, on the pronunciation, but he's kind of spearheading that Arizona pitching development program. So Owen Kronkowski is a guy for 26 to kind of keep an eye on. Jack Berg, Tony Pluta, all those guys can make noise this year. And I fully do believe that Arizona is not only the best roster in the Big 12 from top to bottom, they might honestly be in terms of location, if Arizona and SoCal, they might be the best team in that entire region in the Southwest.
I like that pick a lot. I dig the Wildcats this year. I think they're going to be really, really good. Monty, who do you got? Well, besides Arizona.
I guess I'm going to go with a little bit of a sleeper in the Kansas Jayhawks.
Oh, I like it.
Let's go. Dom Vogel.
I like it.
Cooper Moore in the rotation. I really love that rotation. I think Vogel could be one of the best pitchers in the country. He's an absolute stud. And anytime you have that kind of a guy at the front of the rotation, you've got a chance to win some ball games, right? Especially on a Friday night. And you win on Friday night, you have a really good chance of winning the series because you can just win one other one. But I really like this team. I like the transfers they brought in. Brady Council from Minnesota. His name sounds familiar because I believe he's the son of Greg Council. But I really like what they've got in there. I'm trying to remember the guy they got from East Tennessee State as well, who had a really good summer up in the Cape. It's gonna kill me if I can't remember it. It's Tommy something, but they're going to be a lot of fun. I think the trendy pick would have been to go with Oklahoma State, but
yeah,
I'm going to push my agenda and my bandwagon teams, and that's going to be the Kansas Jayhawks to go along with the Penn State Nittany Lions.
I love it, and I'm still not going to go with Oklahoma State. I'm not going the easy route. I could have, but I was like, no, I don't want to do it. It's not fun. Are
you going out to West Virginia?
I'm going out to Texas Christian University and picking the Horned Frogs. This is a team, they started 13-0 last year or something, and then just completely fell off during the Big 12 play. There's a lot of experience coming back to this team. I think that's probably their biggest strength. They have Anthony Silva coming back, Cole Klecker, like a bunch of guys that are just veterans and have been there before, and probably, heck, I've mentioned before, like having that chip on your shoulder of like, all right, we got left out of the postseason. We were awful in Big 12 play. Like we need to figure out how to bring it to the next level. And for the rotation, I mentioned Cole Klecker. I think him bouncing back is going to be key for that pitching staff to become really, really good. I think Ben Abelt's going to be in the rotation this year. Tyler, I don't know if I know we had him as our preseason reliever of the year, but I think he's going into the rotation, right?
I believe he is going to be a rotation piece.
Yeah, but you have those two
not confirmed yet. But.
Yeah, but if you have those two guys in the rotation, if he can make some significant strides there and transition to a starter, that's a pretty good 1-2 punch. You have guys like newcomers, freshmen, Trevin Baumler and Tommy Lepore. So they got some guys that are going to come into that rotation. The lineup's a little bit questionable. Like we mentioned, Anthony Silva, he took a really big step back his sophomore year. You need him to get back to his freshman year if you really want that lineup to take off. They brought in Jack Bell from Texas A&M, Isaac Condena from Ohio State. And I think the big thing for me in that offense is Bill Masiello came over from Ohio State and is going to be leading on the hitting side. And so if he can make some adjustments for those guys and get those guys to untap some of their potential that they just weren't able to get to last year, I think TCU could be a strong contender for the Big 12. So that's my pick. Sorry, Oklahoma State.
None of us.
By the way, Monty, I found your East Tennessee State guy. It was Tommy Barth.
Barth.
Tommy Barth.
Nice.
Thank you. Barth.
Mm-hmm.
Barth. Not Barth.
Barth. Yeah,
yes.
I know.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was driving me nuts because I was like, I got the first name, but that doesn't do me any good. But yes, Tommy Barth and Brady Council. I mean, I love the transfers that Kansas brought in. So thank you for grabbing that for me, Tyler.
Of course.
Love it. I almost said it was time for hot takes, but then I was like, oh, wait, we have to pick the SEC champion.
I think, it just makes me
I was like, wait a second, there's one more conference I forgot about.
I don't know how you can forget about it. They only tout themselves as the best conference in the country.
Yeah, they have 15 of the top 25 for us. So,
yeah.
All right, Monty, we'll go back to you because I feel bad for skipping you. So,
well, the one I wanted was Arizona, so I'm going to go with Arizona to win the SEC.
Oh, nice, love it. Good pick.
I will go with another A team. No, not Alabama or Auburn. I will go with Arkansas and that disgusting pitching staff. Obviously, on the offensive side, you've got Wahiwa Aloy, and you've got Ryder Helfrich. I was sitting there. I was like, what? Ryder Helfrich, and then. But the reason I'm going with him is the pitching is just unbelievable. Yeah. Gabe Gakel, Landon Beetlescheiss, Gage Wood, Kristen Fouch, Will McIntyre. There's somebody Zach Root is who I was forgetting a big transfer name, but they are loaded. I could keep going on with names. I think that pitching staff is gonna be the difference. They're gonna win the SEC. They're gonna get to Omaha hopefully this time. They haven't. I don't think they've gotten to Omaha unless they were a non-regional host. I think the one year they made it to Omaha since the pandemic was when they were like a 2 seed. So hopefully they break that trend this year because I'm picking them to win the SEC, which would put them as I would imagine, a top overall seed. So
I love that pick. I'm skipping Tyler since he took your Arizona pick, and I don't want him to take my pick. So I'm picking the LSU Tigers to win the SEC this year. We talked about how they have so many guys and have to figure out where everybody is going to play. I think Jay's going to figure that out pretty quickly of like who are going to be the dudes. That lineup is going to be absolutely insane. They got Jared Jones back. Didn't go to the draft. So you're bringing in that leadership to kind of help mold some of these freshmen and some of these other guys who haven't played in the SEC before. You're bringing in Daniel Dickinson from Utah Valley on the transfer portal. Chris Stanfield from Auburn is probably going to start in center field for that team. Then you got freshmen with like Derek Curiel and Ryan Costello and a bunch of other guys. So that lineup is just going to be jam-packed. What?
Am I hearing that like Ashton Larson may not even be in their starting 9 after an all freshman SEC type season? That's how deep they are.
Yeah.
That's bonkers.
Yeah. They're insanely deep. It's nuts. That lineup is going to be dumb. And then they got Steve Millam too. So it's just like, it's going to be crazy. And the rotation is going to be Cade Anderson. I think, Tyler, you mentioned he threw in the scrimmage on Friday night. So the expectation is Cade Anderson will likely be that Friday night guy for them. Really took some strides last year and poised to dominate again this year. Chase Shores is healthy. I think he was up to 98 again this fall. That guy's absolutely electric. If he's healthy, like that's an insane 1-2 punch. And then you have Anthony Asian from UC San Diego who transferred over. And that's not including William Schmidt, the freshman that was supposed to go top 15 potentially in the MLB draft. Like you could keep going on and on about how deep this team is. And I just think that they're going to find a way to make all the pieces work, and they're going to win the SEC.
So you're also leaving off one guy that I want to touch on too. Connor Ware, JUCO transfer from Pearl River.
Yeah, that dude's good too.
Yeah, like he's that rotation is so deep that he's not even gonna. It sounds like he might not even be in the rotation to start the year. And it
he might not even
seems
be
like
a midweek guy.
Yeah, it sounds like he'll be that bulk innings guy out of the bullpen from the looks of it. And Connor Ware is up to the mid 90s from the left side with a pretty hellacious hammer. To be honest with you, he spins the living hell out of it. So I think he's a kind of a sleeper guy to watch. Like I don't know if he cracks the rotation at any point this year, unless like injuries obviously pile up on LSU, but they got a really good mid innings guy to kind of eat up innings and also still be really dominant.
Well,
you guys didn't even mention the back end guy, Gavin Guidry, who might be the best reliever, the best reliever in the SEC.
It's nuts. And Jay mentioned on the podcast when we interviewed him that like having Griffin Herring last year play that same role that like Connor Ware is probably going to play this year, like that was huge for them. If they have that with a more solidified like top 3 of the rotation, nuts.
Yeah, it's no wonder that some outlets have ranked LSU number 1.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Shout out Jason64 Analytics. Put LSU number 1. Tyler, who's your team? Who you got?
It as much as yes, I did put Tennessee at 1. That obviously doesn't mean Tennessee is going to be the champion in my eyes. It would be LSU.
Yeah.
In my LSU is just really, really good. Really deep up and down, and we've talked about A&M and Tennessee enough on this podcast to kind of we already know what we think about that. I do believe LSU, as much as I do have some question marks on where some pieces are in the lineup, are definitely in a better with depth that they have. It's really, really good.
Yeah, I love it. Now we're gonna wrap up this episode with hot takes and bold predictions. Are we ready? We're gonna save the bold prediction for 2025 for last. We're gonna start with some hot takes. Which preseason top 10 team will flop hard? Who wants this one first? Tyler doesn't look like he wants this one.
I'll take it. Oregon State.
Interesting.
I think the schedule going on the road, not having a conference slate, is going to make things tough. I don't know how much they're going to be challenged without having the conference slate. They might get challenged a little bit early, but yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting season for them, and I think it's going to, they might end up making the tournament, but I also could see them getting bounced in the regional. Even if they're hosting a regional. Yeah, I'm going with Oregon State. I mean, we talked about their pitching, I think, before. Was it early in the show or off the show? I can't remember which, but we don't know exactly what their pitching is going to look like, and we know their lineup's going to hit, but is their pitching going to be strong enough to really take them? And to me, it just seems like they might be the safest bet. I'm not really sure any top 10 team is necessarily going to flounder like we've seen in years past. But again, the trend is that one will, and I guess I will guess Oregon State.
I like it. I dig it.
You didn't look like you liked it.
I mean, I like that lineup a lot, but I think you're right in terms of like the pitching staff. Like you just don't know who's going to lock down that rotation besides like Segura, right? And so you got a lot of question marks there. Like as good as a lineup can be, like you need pitchers.
And I think not having a conference is going to be a pain in the butt.
That schedule is going to be fun to try to navigate for them. Tyler, what do you got? Who's your team?
Yeah, I would have gone Oregon State. And for much of the same reasons.
On Oregon State.
Yeah, like for much of the same reasons. Like that pitching staff does have some question marks. Obviously, Segura would probably be the Friday guy. He's got the experience from last year. And I think he's an underrated arm, too, on the West Coast. I think he's really good metrically. Mm-hmm. But after that, like, you look at Leif Palmer, who didn't really throw a ton last year. He's going to be asked to step up and get big innings this year. Dax Whitney, their prize prospect from Idaho, is going to be another guy to kind of watch in that rotation. But after that, Nelson Keljo might either be a rotation starter or their closer. And after that, I'm not quite sure what else is really there. And not trying to, talk bad about Mitch Canham's crew. Like Mitch Canham's obviously a great coach, and Oregon State has a long history here. But after that, like Joey Munt might be the only notable name in that bullpen after that, to be honest. That's got like significant innings in the past couple years. So it's a big question mark after you get past like Segura. So as much as that lineup does rake, the question marks are just too big for me on the pitching side to kind of like envision them being out inside the top 10 once you get to like normal conference play start in mid-March.
Yeah. I'm going to switch it up and pick Clemson. I do like this team. I think it is a pretty well-balanced team. You have an ace and Aiden Knack on Friday nights, but for me, replacing 5 bats from the lineup last year, I think that's going to be a question mark for them. There's question marks around the rotation outside of Knack. I know Monty's ACC is going to say Clemson's going to be great. Yeah, I can see him shaking his head already. I just wanted to see them prove themselves a little bit more. But if I'm going to pick a team, that's the team I'm going to pick. I was probably going to pick Oregon State too, but you two have already picked them. So
you were asking why there was so much hate for Oregon State when you were going to jump on the bandwagon with us?
Yeah.
All right, Clemson's not bad. I'm just
looking at those teams and I don't know who to pick.
And the problem is we all voted these teams in the top 10. Yeah. So like if one of us thought they were going to completely fall apart, we wouldn't have put them in the top 10. Yeah. So it's really tricky, but the recent history says that somebody will. It's just you don't know who it's going to be, because otherwise if you did, you wouldn't have put them in the top 10.
Yep. We're going to stay on the top 10 theme, and which team will jump into the top 10 after the first weekend of play?
Oh.
Yeah, this is tough.
Trying to remember who's not in the top 10.
We got North Carolina, Oregon, Florida, Texas, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, Wake Forest, Arizona, NC State.
I think North Carolina. I think if North Carolina sweeps Texas Tech,
and
what they're at 11. So
yeah, that's my pick too.
Yeah, it's.
We don't have to go in depth on that one.
Yeah.
Which unranked team makes Omaha? I've already said mine. Mine was UC Santa Barbara. So.
I said Georgia Tech, but if you really want me to go again, I'll say Louisville.
I like that.
Forbes cuts. I think Colton Hartman and which Detmers is it?
Parker.
Parker, thank you. I was about to say Reed Detmers, so I was like, which brother am I saying? I think those two guys are going to have sophomore breakout years. I think the pitching staff's going to be vastly improved, and that lineup is chef's kiss.
Love it. Who's going to lead the nation in home runs?
Wow, just going over me?
Yeah, you already had yours, didn't you?
Yeah.
No. I
Sorry,
I got a deep sleeper
what
to
we
kind
got?
of go on here. Troy baseball.
Oh, I like that. I dig that.
Troy. So here's my reasoning to kind of go on that. Like, obviously, the big part of that is Brooks Bryan. I think he's one of the best kept secrets in college baseball last year and set the RBI record for them. Goes to USA Baseball with Skylar Meade, their head coach. But also kind of looking at the rest of that lineup too, like Blake Cavill, Jimmy I think it's Janicki, I think is his name, Peyton Watts. And you look at the lineup, like Garrett Gaines, Noah Eaters, Jay Dill. Those are three big guys to watch out of that pitching staff this year. I think Luke Lyon too could be another guy that really pops up. So like, I'm looking at that Troy team and thinking this might be a really good sleeper pick for a mid-major.
Like yeah.
And you know, like I said, Brooks Bryan, you know, that's a bat that is going to make a lot of noise this year. So I'm putting my chips in Troy baseball. I would not be shocked if
I dig that.
Are they the Trojans?
Yes, they are the Trojans.
Okay, if they weren't, I'd be really upset if the Troy was anything but the Trojans. But I will go. Oh wait, we already went.
You went. You're good.
I was already moving on to who will lead the nation in home runs. Is that from a team aspect or?
No, we can go individual player on this one.
Okay, assuming somebody's going to go Jace, I'm going to go Drew Burris in that ballpark in Georgia Tech, because it's a really hitter friendly ballpark. He hit 4 home runs in a game last year in like his second week as a collegiate player. So I think he's going to take a step forward. But yeah, Jace Laviolette I think is the safe pick, at least in terms of the Power 4 conferences.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Jared Jones from LSU. I think he hit 28 last year. I think that's right. Yeah. Who you got, Tyler? Are you going with Jace?
Nope.
What?
So I like that we're gonna go with a different guy just to be cute, and then nobody goes with the favorite.
Nope.
No. Nolan Schubert, Oklahoma State.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
Wow.
Yeah, when I tell you that might be the most powerful left-handed bat in all of college baseball, I do believe that he is. It might be a bit better than Jace when all is said and done, and he has the swing plane and the loft to really put a charge to a baseball into the little track field they have beyond right field at O'Brate. And O'Brate's such a hitter-friendly ballpark too, so that's my pick. Is Schubert is probably going to hit 30 bombs this year.
I love it. We're going to go with 2 more questions before we get into the final bold prediction. First one. What is one major rule change college baseball needs but won't get soon?
Lock the conferences now. Bring the Pac-12 back.
I was going to say bring back the Pac-12.
Back the Pac-12, lock the conferences in as they are, and let football do its own thing.
I think they need an NIL cap.
That was actually my second answer.
I don't know how that works, so I didn't even want to mess with that.
I don't either, but I just think they need one.
I mean, as a guy who grew up loving Virginia basketball, watching my head coach of 15 years retire because of NIL and current transfer portal was pretty brutal, and I think that's going to happen at some point for some of these coaches as they get kind of, because again, one of the reasons you become a college coach is to be a development of young men, and that's kind of gone away now. It's got a pro feel to it a little bit. The players deserve to get paid if the school is using their likeness, but it's makes it difficult.
Yeah.
And I kind of build off that too, is like maybe more limitations with the transfer portal itself. Like
maybe limit the number of times you can transfer.
Yeah. So like I know there's a few guys
why,
especially on the football side, like there's a few guys that have been to a different college every single year across like 4 or 5 years.
I know a certain baseball player who was at Duke and then Ole Miss and now at Tennessee.
Yeah, and that was going to be my other thing. Like Liam Doyle also went from Coastal to Ole Miss and now to Tennessee. And I'm sure there's other examples too, but those are obviously the two primary ones that really stand out. But I do believe the NCAA needs to kind of crack down on how free the portal is at this point and kind of put some restrictions there to where it's like a shopping mall at this point.
Yeah.
Is that like a fair comparison to make?
I think so. Money.
Yeah, and shopping malls are dead now. It's more like Amazon.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. That would make more sense. But like,
you just gotta know what you're looking for, right?
Yeah.
That's where 64
that's
Analytics
true.
comes in.
Yeah, you can compare and contrast on Amazon, but you can use 64 Analytics to do the same with your players. It's nuts. Last one. What's the biggest revenge tour storyline of 2025?
I think we all know what it is.
Texas A&M.
Yeah.
It's got to be Texas A&M and Schloss, right? I mean,
yeah. Yep. Yeah. You lose your head coach and then to your
biggest
rival. Yeah.
Especially the way it went down as well.
Yeah.
I think that plays a factor, and that leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But I think that's going to cause for some high drama when Texas and Texas A&M rekindle that rivalry in the same conference. Now, I'm pretty excited for that.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
I have April 25th, 26th, and 27th highlighted, circled everything on my calendar because that is going to be one hell of a weekend to watch college baseball, man.
Are you headed to Texas?
No.
No.
We'd see Texas this week.
Yeah,
remember?
There was a hesitation there from Tyler, like, no. Like it was like he was like, maybe, no.
Who do I have actually that weekend? Give me 2 seconds to kind of figure this out. I would be at Duke for Virginia Tech that weekend, and I think Clemson's also NC State, and I might dabble in that too. But like, I once you get past like the opening part of the South Carolina home schedule, like they get Oklahoma, Tennessee to kind of start off at home this year. And then you get Arkansas, Georgia being like the big SEC headline that mid-April weekend of, I think it's the 11th and 13th. After that, I think I'm just going to stay home probably.
Yeah. I got Nebraska, Maryland that weekend. So definitely not missing that one.
Yeah, but
NC
you will
State,
definitely have
Clemson.
Yeah. And I think Clemson also has like Savannah Bananas at home too that weekend.
Nice. All right, it's time for the bowl predictions to wrap it up. Who wants to give their bowl prediction first? Who's got it?
I've got one if you want me to
go. Go for it.
A Northern ACC team makes the NCAA tournament, and that's Boston College, Notre Dame, or Pitt makes the NCAA tournament. All three, I imagine, are projected at the bottom of the standings in the ACC. I'm predicting at least one gets in.
I like
Pittsburgh? I'm not for
Pittsburgh. Let's go.
What is it? They have not made the NCAA tournament in 30 years
since 1995.
That's wild.
Yeah,
they probably should have. They probably should have made it in, I think, 2021. But but
I like it.
Yeah. So I think they were ranked. Like, they got up to number 14, I think, in the top 25 in 2021. But yeah,
that's a solid one. I like that. Tyler, what do you got?
I don't want to make this sound like it's a boldish prediction because we've wanted it for years. ECU and Omaha. However, when you look at what they have this year, like obviously ECU's been ranked heavily, like top 10, top 15 the past couple of years in preseason. They're not ranked this year. And they lost a lot of firepower last year, but then you get Sean Jenkins coming in as he was supposed to graduate college or high school this upcoming June, I do believe, but now he's already on campus. Jake Hunter's back. They've got Ethan Norby's little brother. I think it's Connor Norby. No, Connor Norby was
Connor Norby is the older brother.
Yeah,
I got it mixed up.
I agreed with you. I was like, it sounds good, but then I was like, wait a minute, Connor Norby plays for the Marlins.
Yeah, and then like Dixon Williams is probably going to break out this year. There's a couple other guys on that lineup too. I really do like.
He had a monster summer.
He did, and I think he was a big piece in them winning the North. Is it New England Collegiate?
New England Collegiate baseball. Yep.
So I genuinely would not be shocked if ECU does make some noise this year. Like Cliff Godwin knows what he's doing with that ball club. He's been linked to bigger jobs in recent years, and he's been on the doorstep of Omaha a few times recently. Like they went to Vanderbilt with Carson Wisenhunt and Gavin Williams, and I thought they had a decent chance that year. So the fans in Greenville do deserve an Omaha appearance. I really do believe that Greenville.
I was going to say Duke or ECU.
ECU, both do actually.
You got both of them going to Omaha?
I wouldn't be shocked.
No, but
I don't know where I said Duke here, but
no, I was just bringing up because you brought up Duke earlier, and I just wanted to, as an ACC guy, I just wanted to talk Duke getting into Omaha and add that into your bold take.
I mean, hey, I'm just putting this out. I'm putting it out here now. Coach Pollard, if you're hearing this, Duke's going to Omaha this year with ECU. Good job, Jared.
Yeah, drop the phones.
But no, I really do believe ECU can make some noise this year, and again, that fan base is one of the most dedicated in college baseball, and they show out every single year. It's a great environment. They really do feed off that home field advantage. I could totally see ECU making noise this year.
I like it. I'm gonna go with Maryland winning the Big Ten and hosting their second regional. That's my bold prediction. I don't know how likely it's going to happen, but if we're going bold, this team has a stacked lineup under the second year of Matt Swope. First year wasn't so great. I mean, he just wasn't able to recruit the way he wanted to, but he's brought in some big pieces this year. Rotation's now got a Friday night guy, hopefully, and Kyle McCoy. Joey McManus is really taking those steps forward, and they got freshmen like Jake Eager and Christopher Cespedes. I'm just going to go with a bold prediction that they'll win the Big Ten and they'll host a regional.
I like it.
Yeah. What? Yeah. And then Monty says he hates the entire state of Maryland. So
that was supposed to be a private comment, but thanks.
Wow. Just throwing Monty under the bus like that, man.
Oh, so when I was living in Maryland, I'm definitely throwing that comment out into the public.
You're not from Maryland, though. You just happen to live there.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that I don't like Maryland.
I'm just gonna keep my butt of North Carolina down here.
You're like, I'm gonna ignore everything that's happening.
He's the Homer Simpson going into the hedges.
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
just disappearing.
Not to mention, gonna say this now. If we want to go really, really bold, not even baseball related, we're Carolina Panthers. Whoever wins the Super Bowl right now, we don't know who it is at this point. For what it's worth, I imagine probably the Eagles. Thanks for holding the trophy for next year. By the way, it's gonna be the Panthers next year.
Well, this will drop on Thursday, so we will know who won.
It's 37-6 at the time of this recording, and it's there's 9 minutes left. I think the Eagles have won the Super Bowl.
37-6.
I think we made a good decision recording during this game.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like
yeah. Anyways, either way, Eagles, thank you for keeping it warm for us next year.
There you go. Love it. That wraps it up for our college baseball preview. Before we close things out, Monty, what stuff do you have coming out that people should be aware of? Where can they find you? All that fun stuff.
Oh man, we've got
everything.
The conference. Yeah, we've got the conference previews on Just Baseball. In terms of the college baseball central stuff, I've got a link posted to my profile. I've got about 50,000 plus words of previews, 12 and a half hours of preview shows and interviews. And then we've got all 16 interviews from the fall with players, or I guess 18. And then, a dozen or so with coaches. So you can always go there, and all the links are in a nice little spreadsheet for you to go to. Plus, my breakout candidates for both the pitching and hitting side of the ACC. Plus, we've got conference previews and a bunch of stuff that I'm sure you'll plug right now.
Yeah. Monty's been working hard on the ACC and SEC conference preview. I got Big 10 and Big 12 coming out. We're hoping to have all those out next week before the season starts. We're going to have a all-encompassing one-page document of what you need to know for the college baseball season. That'll have draft video from Tyler, so you can check out some of the top players in the league. Some draft profiles from JD Cameron, who's on our team, has been doing some incredible stuff there. We'll have our top 25 rankings, preseason All-Americans, all that fun stuff that you need. Tyler, I know you got some new stuff that you've had out, some new video. You want to plug those before we wrap up?
Yeah, so the recent video, I'm still going through some of the late season stuff from last year. So Jimmy Arnold against Duke is now out. Colton Smith against South Carolina, which was actually really, really decent for a solid few innings until kind of like a blow up inning in the last frame that he had, is now out, and you kind of see the pitchability we mentioned earlier. But like Trey Phelps is going to be included in that, and Trey Phelps had like 4 home runs that weekend against South Carolina pitching, so it's pretty good. But obviously working on that, some ACC tournament stuff, and then kind of dipping into some of the USA stuff last year. Jamie Arnold's stuff versus Duke looked pretty good last year.
I asked because I interviewed him afterwards, and he did not like what he was doing that night. So I thought that was interesting.
So I do remember us talking about that, and I think somebody on Twitter was mad that the strike zone from the ump wasn't good. Which
that's right.
Admittedly, it kind of there were some strike calls that like it could go either way, and they just weren't calling them. But I think even Jamie himself admitted that he was just missing his spots a few times.
And he still pitched very well. That's what I thought was funny. Is like he was like, man, it wasn't my best start tonight. And I'm like looking at the stat line. I'm like, what?
It was like 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run or 2 earned runs, like 2 walks and 9 Ks against a really good Duke lineup.
It was also like the only game Santucci had all year where he didn't have 2+ walks.
He walked nobody that outing.
He walked nobody, but I think every other start had 2+.
Yeah, so that was a very interesting matchup, actually.
And Cam Smith killed a baseball.
Mm-hmm.
111, 112 off the top of the wall.
I believe you used a term that we can't say on air here, but
we can't.
It was we were very impressed.
So yeah, we got that coming out, and then obviously like me and Jared being in Dallas this weekend, very excited for that. By the time this goes out, we're probably both going to be on a plane to Dallas. So, I'm just ready for this to get started. And to add on to that, we're going to start doing some more of the draft preview pieces that, JD has been working on for the past couple of weeks, where he did Ava Arquette and Dean Curley. I'm going in depth on Ethan Petrie and what I want to see improved this year to kind of boost his draft stock. That should be out hopefully before this comes out. I'm hoping, knock on wood. We'll see if my writing skills will finally decide to go up, but we have no idea. And outside of that, like we'll have combined top 200 in mid-March once conference play starts. So I'm just ready to get college baseball started, man. It's been a long off season. Really, really, really wanting to get back out of the field right now. Like if this was Thursday right now, I am at the gate at the airport. Exactly. I'm Eric Andre. Like, let me in.
We'll also have interviews dropping all season too. And Monty, I promise the RJ Austin interview will come out. It will come out.
It's fine. That's so funny. That's so funny.
We recorded that like 3 months ago, but we're just making sure that we have all these player interviews coming out for you all throughout the season. And so plenty of content to come. We're excited for the season. But until next time, we'll see you.